We believe we can build and sustain a Nevada that meets the needs of all Nevadans and ensures all residents, regardless of zip code, can thrive in dignity. But the COVID-19 crisis has stripped bare our state, exposing deficiencies in the social safety net and public services. Since 2011, Nevada progressives have produced our own State of the State. To ensure the priorities of the community are heard and met with the seriousness they deserve, and that our movement is united in our pursuit of a more fair and just Nevada. With the legislative building closed to the people, it's clear more than ever today that what our government needs to do is listen to the voices of everyday Nevadans, hear their stories, and enact policy changes that make lasting differences in their lives. Here are some of those stories.
When people ask what it's like to teach under COVID, it's almost impossible to put into words. It's feeling overwhelmed, overworked, exhausted, underappreciated, ignored, and even vilified. If you'll indulge my nerdy side, to quote Bilbo Baggins, I feel thin, sort of stretched, like butter scraped over too much bread. We have faced so many challenges in our classroom this year that I can't even begin to list them all here. My workload has more than doubled, with no additional supports or resources offered. I go to work every day terrified that I'm going to bring home a deadly virus to my 3-year-old and husband, both of whom have asthma. I've had to completely reinvent my teaching and throw out 10 years of working to refine my craft. I've had the rug pulled out from under me every week as my district shifts from digital days to hybrid to full distance with seemingly no rhyme or reason. I've been blamed for things that are outside of my control and ignored when I've brought my concerns to district leadership. Worst of all, I've had to watch as kids slip through the cracks of our system, knowing there's almost nothing I can do when they're not in my rooms. Now, normally what gets me through are the kids. Most of all, I miss my kids. Now, of course, in hybrid, there are students in my room, but it's not the same. I can't play games with them. I can't tutor them one-on-one at my desk. I can't coach mock trial. I can't play D&D and video game club with them. Normally, my room is a haven for all those students who feel like they don't fit in or they don't have a safe space to work or be themselves at home. It's normally buzzing with activity, and this year, it's strangely silent. What I want most of all is to have my kids back in my room safely and to feel like a real teacher again.
Hello everyone, my name is Vera Moore and I'm the director of True Beginnings. We have a program in Las Vegas by the name of Divinity House, where we house formerly incarcerated women seeking to be reunified with their children after incarceration and homelessness and substance abuse. Our house is gender responsive and trauma informed. Why? Because the violence against women needs to stop. And the perpetuation of violence against women after or post incarceration has become so great that the numbers of recidivism keeps rising, adding to mass incarceration. I know this firsthand because I am also formerly incarcerated. And I had this title since 1998. At this point, the last time I was in prison was in 2008. So I had a life of recidivism back and forth, and it was until I received assistance with trauma that I truly was able to get footing and be able to stand on my own and move forward in life, becoming a productive citizen. Nevada legislation. You need to mean what you say what you mean, and then the follow through counts. This is the only way that you will be able to literally put something in place for prison reform. So when women or anyone goes to jail, an assessment is put in place that attacks the true problem, the underlying. And in most cases, at this point, 84% of those individuals that end up behind bars have sustained some sort of physical or sexual abuse. If we treat that through programming, then we really will be curing the problem. So, you promised this summer that the special session was only a start on criminal justice reform. I suggest that we start putting gender programming within our jails and prison systems so that we will have a true beginning in order to make things work and stop mass incarceration, lessen recidivism, and make a true impact in our community. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ronald Portillo. As all you know, last year was a very difficult year for most of us. I have been working for 3 years at Fiesta Rancho, one of the Station Casino's properties, in which they laid me off in March. I have kept my trust in God because I believe in Him. Since June, I have taken unemployment benefits where I am paying all my bills. And since September, I have no longer insurance because the company stopped giving us insurance. In fact, my daughter, my wife, and I depend on my job insurance. My co-worker who have more than 25 years working in the company, who have been loyal, faithful to the company. The station casinos have been successful. My co-workers and I, we are worried about what will happen with our jobs. We appeal to all politicians in Nevada, commissioners, to help us pass the right to return to work in law. We want to return to our jobs with the same benefits, our salaries, our full-time hours, our vacations, all our benefits that we had before. Thanks for your help. God bless you.
Hamu, no autumn here, minani no kuyui papunan away, no kuyui takara dinate no. Hello everyone, my name is Autumn Harry. I am a member of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, and today I will be discussing environmental justice issues here in Nevada and plans work towards a more just and equitable future for all Nevadans. Nevada is not a wasteland for the military to bomb. Nevada isn't a blank check for developers and corporations to scrape dry. Nevada isn't a piggy bank for international mining CEOs to crack open and leave shattered. Nevada represents the traditional territories of the Numu, Nuwa, Washoe, and Goshu peoples, who continue to fight for all who require clean water, air, and land. This land is a gift, rich in the power to heal, the power to give life, and the power to nourish. Over the last year, we have seen some reasons for hope. After decades of opposition, the Las Vegas pipeline was permanently defeated. Disastrous military base expansions in both northern and southern Nevada were shot down through grassroots opposition. Land bills have been postponed that would have worsened environmental racism, such as declining air quality and more heat island effects, which disproportionately affects neighborhoods that are primarily Black, Indigenous, and home to people of color. We see a glimmer of hope in the new federal administration and Deb Haaland being the first Indigenous woman to serve as the Secretary of the Interior. However, this year has also brought terrible struggles as we suffer through a poorly managed response to COVID-19 and the last year of the Trump presidency. COVID has reduced the public's already limited ability to have our voices heard in public planning for how we relate to the lands through a rapid shift to online public meetings. We have seen projects such as the Thacker Pass lithium mine fast-tracked through Trump EPA rules, despite local opposition to the project. We have seen decades of bottled water deliveries end in Yerington based on corporate science, which conveniently reduces corporate liability to clean a plume of uranium in the groundwater that threatens the health of both Paiute and non-native people. We have lost some of our most cherished leaders, water protectors, and land defenders, including our relatives Norman Harry and Carrie Dan. My late father, Norman Harry, understood the preciousness of life and every day committed himself to protecting water, land, and countless communities from environmental degradation. His life's work established better water quality for all communities living within the Truckee River watershed. He will always be remembered for his dedication to the preservation of water in our homelands of Kuyuipa, Pyramid Lake. As our elected leaders in the state continue to adjust timelines to mitigate climate change, we must remember that reducing carbon emissions is only one small piece of environmental justice. As we build the infrastructure to achieve our emissions goals, we must ask how it will be achieved, who benefits, and who carries the impacts. In a state where Berkshire Hathaway owns our public energy utility, we must do more to envision a just transition to renewable energy where we invest in Black, Indigenous, and Nevadans of color who have been the most impacted by the corporate industry, without seeing the benefits financially or otherwise. Carbon emissions may be the face of climate change, but it is ongoing colonialism and capitalist ideology which are at the heart of climate change. As debates around carbon emissions burn, we can't keep turning a blind eye to issues such as clear-cutting of pine nut groves, a practice that opens land for ranching and mining while devastating indigenous peoples, traditional food sources, and reducing carbon storage. We must learn that the land isn't here for our taking and entertainment, that we have responsibilities to the land, which nurtures us with clean water and food. Unless we address the greed of corporations, we will not address the root causes of climate change. We cannot continue to only take. It is time for all of us to learn our responsibility and give back. As efforts to mitigate climate change continue, Nevada plays a unique role as the only U.S. state with lithium production, since lithium is used in battery energy storage. We have long seen the devastating effects of mining, from intergenerational pollution to the terror of man camps, which drive the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. We appreciate support from leadership in addressing the surface of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls issue. However, our leaders must do better in addressing the root causes of why our sisters are stolen, one of which is the open door Nevada leaves for mining corporations. Here in Nevada, we are the driest state in the U.S. We've defeated the Las Vegas pipeline, but there is so much more work to be done. As more people move to Nevada, we must oppose unsustainable growth that calls for interbasin transfers of water. We must address wastewater from mining. Where Las Vegas is allocated 300,000 acre-feet of water annually from Lake Mead, the mining industry is set to waste 1.2 to 1.5 million acre-feet of water post-mining and just the pit lakes that are already permitted. We must learn from the leaders whom we have lost. May the words of the late Carrie Dan continue to propel us forward in action as we stand up against corporate greed. When the Earth Mother, your land is gone, you are walking towards a slow spiritual death. Let us work together to be better relatives to the future generations who will continue to have a deep connection to these lands. Pijatma, thank you.
Hello, my name is Jovan Jackson, formerly incarcerated and founder of Better Minds, Better Communities. I want to speak on the impact vote by mail had on our country. Vote by mail created historic outcomes in recent elections. Increasing voting accessibility will allow every American to vote and shape America in its liking. Increasing voting accessibility will bring more accuracy to our democracy. Vote by mail allow the disabled, the elderly, the hospitalized, and even those incarcerated the liberty to vote. Those who are incarcerated need a voice. Those who are impacted by the criminal justice systems are the best ones to create solutions to improve the criminal justice systems. Our jails can no longer be used as mental health facilities. Nevada needs more legislation that supports long-term mental health facilities. People want the help but not have an outlet to receive the resources. The jailhouses should not be used as a form of housing. The jailhouses should not be primary facilities to receive treatment. Diversion programs are needed. Housing is needed, and long-term mental health facilities are needed. With more access to voting, our voice can be heard and make a true change in Nevada that we need.
Hello, my name is Eric Upright. I was recently affected by COVID-19 and the COVID-19 response. The response to COVID-19 on an outdated systems such as unemployment has been abysmal, to put it lightly. Legislature cannot continue to pass the buck. They need to take responsibility for this and nip it in the bud and do the best they can in a timely manner, because the website being as inaccessible as it is, and the time they get back to you, and how much time it takes to get a hold of the unemployment office in the first place is far more than needs to be. It took me over a month just to get into contact with someone, just to speak to them on the phone. The website is almost impossible to use unless you have a smartphone or a computer, and especially with the way computers and accessibility goes with COVID-19, it's difficult to make those things happen. Siegel Suites thinks they are above exemptions for evictions, or above and exempt evictions. They believe that they can basically get rid of people for not paying rent as soon as you don't pay your rent, and it's this whole process having to deal with them and their BS while you live here, while trying to deal with everything else that's going on. So there needs to be some kind of reform or something that goes on with evictions, and just evictions themselves. The governor and state legislators, they cannot wait any longer. They really need to do something about this. Things are getting dire with how much you have to work and how much time that goes into this whole process, and with everything going on and the deaths and everything. Going at the way they're going now is impossible, and there's too many people that are trying to take advantage of the system while things are the way they are. So the governor, somebody needs to do something about this immediately. Please, we're begging you. I had a couple suicide attempts waiting for my unemployment to get handed to me, or dispersed, or however you want to put it. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.
The state of our movement is resilient, but our communities will not survive a trickle-down recovery. Some of the deepest pain Nevadans felt was due to the state's unwillingness to aggressively address Nevada's threadbare social safety net and neglected public services. Nowhere is that more clear than the failure of our unemployment system that has left thousands homeless, hungry, and destitute. State workers deserve all the tools they need to do their jobs well and serve Nevadans at all times, not just when a crisis hits. Additionally, our public schools and healthcare infrastructure were hit hard by cuts proposed by Governor Sisolak and passed by the Nevada legislature. A tough choice to be made when the profits of billion-dollar mining industries are deemed untouchable. Nevada's strength is not found in stadiums or a billionaire's tech playground. It is in our belief in each other. That is the battle-born spirit that inspired Nevadans to turn their garages into food pantries, donate stimulus checks to community bail funds, deliver fresh foods to COVID patients, build tiny homes for the houseless, and so much more. Nevadans dug deep, and it's now up for the legislature to do the same. Nevada can no longer prioritize corporations and their profits over the needs of Nevadans. There is no better time than now to plan for our future, so the next 7 generations of Nevadans have all they need to thrive in dignity.